it's clear that the Kremlin had um, wanted to give no mercy to Navalny at this point. Prison conditions are harsh, so a lot of different things could have happened. But the important point is that he died in prison, and he was treated harshly in prison, and so the prison authorities, directly or indirectly, are responsible for his death.
A report suggests Russian medical workers have discovered bruising on the country's opposition leader Alexei Navalny's body, consistent with him being restrained while suffering a seizure. A highly regarded opposition newspaper, Novaya Gazeta, said that it had managed to contact an inmate at Navalny's prison who said that a mysterious commotion had erupted in the prison the night before Navalny's death broke. Well, Joe Biden has also promised his Ukrainian counterpart that the US will commit to a planned $60 billion aid package. Despite uncertainty at the proposal passing Congress, some in Washington hope that the death of Alexei Navalny will have focused some minds amongst those Trump supporters resisting the aid package. Well, let's speak to Thomas Graham, who is a distinguished fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, also former special assistant to President George W. Bush and senior director for Russia at the National Security Council. Thomas, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
What do you make of this report? I mean, can we trust that, and what does it tell us?
Well, look, I mean, we can't trust anything at this point. There'll be a lot of speculation as to what happened. It's clear that the Kremlin had wanted to give no mercy to Navalny at this point. Prison conditions are harsh, so a lot of different things could have happened. But the important point is that he died in prison, and he was treated harshly in prison, and so the prison authorities, directly or indirectly, are responsible for his death.
What do we make of this idea of a mysterious commotion in his prison the night before the news of his death emerged?
Well, again, this is pure speculation. We simply don't know what happened. As I said, there'll be various reports coming out as to what occurred, under what conditions, and so forth. It'll be important that the body be released to the family, that they can conduct an independent autopsy to make an independent determination of what actually caused his death, and that will give us, I think, a better understanding of what happened.
Do you think that's likely?
What's likely that
that his body will be released? I mean, is there a possibility
well,
here
it will.
in which?
Well, it will at some point. It will
Will
at
it?
some point. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. If nothing else, for burial.
And so at that point, do you foresee that the family will be able to make an independent assessment of how he died?
They will have an independent investigation done to determine what the cause of death was.
Okay. We've also seen today, Thomas, the US and UK ambassadors in Moscow taking part in a memorial service. Several hundred people, we understand, now been arrested across Russia for doing the same. What is your take, Thomas, on how this moment has played out so far in Russia?
Well, I mean, it's clear that Navalny had significant support within certain segment of society. They want to demonstrate their continuing support for him and his goal of combating corruption in Russia, advancing democratic processes. The Kremlin, by the same token, wants to repress any demonstrations of support for Navalny, and so it's not surprising that several hundred people have been arrested trying to lay flowers at memorials for Navalny over the past 24, 48 hours.
Is there jeopardy for the US and UK ambassadors to be taking part in such a public show of, sort of, public criticism there, really, in Moscow of the Kremlin?
Well, this is almost standard practice on the part of Western ambassadors, particularly American and British ambassadors. When a figure like Navalny dies, there is an expression of support and a laying of flowers at a memorial. The American ambassador did the same thing when Boris Nemtsov, another leading dissident, was murdered in Moscow several years ago.
And presumably, given who they are, they're relatively safe. I mean, the chances of them being carted off are quite slim. You suspect?
No, not at all. They have they have diplomatic immunity. I think the Kremlin realizes things like this are going to happen. It doesn't make them happy, but they're not going to make a big fuss out of it publicly.
Joe Biden, Thomas, has promised Vladimir Zelensky, that the US will commit to a planned $60 billion aid package. There is a huge amount of uncertainty about this in America. This passing Congress looks far from certain. Trump supporters in Congress keen to hold this aid package up, perhaps even thwart it entirely. What is your hunch, Thomas, of the way that goes?
I think eventually the administration is going to get its $60 billion. You've seen that there is a bipartisan support in the Senate for this. They've already passed a bill that would provide that funding. I think if the bill ever gets to the floor in the House, you'll also find a majority in support of that, and it'll be bipartisan, a significant number of Republicans, significant number of Democrats. The challenge is how you get it to a floor vote at this point. That's what the administration is working on. That is what I think Senate leaders are working on with their House counterparts as well, trying to find a way to get this to the floor vote, confident that if it is voted on, it will receive majority support.
Has the death of Alexi Navalny, Thomas, changed anything? I mean, has it sort of focused minds a bit amongst those dissenters in Washington?
You'd like to think it would. My guess is that it won't. The people who are dissenting are really either opposed to further aid to Ukraine or want to link it to the situation on the southern border, and that will continue. The administration will try to make the point that Navalny's death underscores the type of country that we're dealing with, that it is a matter of national security for us to provide this aid to Ukraine, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference with those who are adamantly opposed to providing the funding to Ukraine at this point.
Okay, Thomas, thank you for your time tonight. Thomas Graham, a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, also a former special assistant to George W. Bush and senior director for Russia on the National Security Council. His take on that developing story out of Russia.